Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our Summer Movement to Work Forum. I'm so pleased you could join us today as we focus in on some key topics related to youth employment and well-being in the Northwest and across the country. We've got some truly compelling speakers lined up for you over the next 90 minutes, whose passion is both infectious and inspirational, and I know you're going to take a lot away from being here today, wherever you may be joining us from. So as you may have noticed, my name is Simon Beckman and I am Movement to Work's Head of Regional Development for the Northwest, having been seconded into my role from Unilever way back in March 2020. That year ended up being slightly different than I'd planned for. Ordinarily, we would have organised a formal launch in the Northwest where I could have met lots of you face to face. However, I am really glad to have this opportunity to focus in on the region today and to connect with you all virtually. And so to replicate real life, at least in part, it would be great if you would like to use the chat function and let us know just a little bit about yourselves, who you are, what your role is, what organisation you may represent, and whereabouts in the country you are joining us from today. Please also, of course, feel free to continue to use that chat function throughout the event. We'd really love to see as much interaction as possible. So it's a genuine privilege to be working with the movement, and I am really looking forward to building even more relationships across the Northwest, supporting businesses, big or small, to engage positively and with maximum impact through youth employability programs. And most importantly, of course, I am here to help young people work. Now, before we kick off, I want to take you through a few housekeeping notes. Today's being recorded, so if there is any content that you would like to gain access to post-event, please keep an eye on our social digital channels where we will be sharing the full recording next week. As I have already mentioned, please do engage in the chat function. If you want to give any real-time feedback or have any questions, we can't promise, of course, to be able to respond to everyone today, but a member of the team is monitoring this to ensure everything is captured. Please do engage on social media too. Most of you should have received our comms guidance in your briefing packs. So please don't forget to post something to raise awareness about the event and your involvement. And don't forget, if you would, to tag @Movement2Work and use our hashtag as well, which is #YoungPeopleWork. Now, we do want to hear from you. So please don't rush off at the end of the event. We'll share a link to a very short feedback form, and we'd really love to hear from you about what works well, what hasn't worked quite so well, for future reference for us. And finally, we've got a few videos coming up today in the session, and the sound might be a little bit louder or quieter on each video than expected. So please do just take care to adjust your volume throughout so you can get the maximum benefit. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Television and radio presenter, I'm a celebrity finalist, Prince's Trust ambassador, and to be honest, a bit of a Northern legend. It's Mr. Vernon Kay who sent in this message of support. Let's have a look.
Hi everyone, Vernon Kay from Bolton, born and bred. And I'm also an ambassador for the Prince's Trust, which is why you're watching this video, I would imagine. I'm here to talk about movement to work and the importance of getting young people into education, training, and then employment. It's been really tough the past few months with COVID and lockdown, and it's been really difficult for young people to get established within the working sector. And young people in the Northwest, well, it's reported that young people in the Northwest find it more difficult than other parts of the UK to get into education, training and employment. So the Movement to Work initiative set up or in conjunction with the Prince's Trust is a really good idea. If you've got a business and if you can help young people in your local area in particular, disadvantaged young people, it means so much. Because we all know that that initial peg up, that initial boost of confidence, that initial morale boost of getting your CV in, getting an interview and getting a job or getting a place at a college enables young people to then move on and elevate themselves and get cracking on that ladder of life. So if you can help with the movement to work, and if you can help just by sitting in on a couple of interviews of young people, it makes a massive difference. I remember having my first job interview. It was for work experience, and I had it at a travel agency in Bolton, and it was just god awful. And they sent me out, and they said, "Come back. We want to give you some advice." And we sat down for another half an hour, 45 minutes, and we talked about the interview process. And it was a lady who didn't really need to call me back. She didn't really need to give me any advice, but I guess she thought that it was so bad that this young lad, young skinny whippersnapper from Bolton, needed some help with his job interviews. And it did genuinely help me from that moment on. So if you can help in any way, shape or form with your young business, if you're a boss and you're kicking about and you want to do some good, then just sit in on a couple of interviews and help these young kids out, because it makes a massive difference. So yeah, movement to work, it's a great idea. Young people need to work. Young people need to get up and going after lockdown, after COVID, and just in general, especially from disadvantaged backgrounds. So if you can, please help. We'd appreciate it. Word up, Bolton massive.
Amazing, wonderful, wonderful message of support from Prince's Trust Ambassador Vernon Kay there. Thank you for sharing your personal experience with us and for raising some really important points. Thank you. So we're now going to move on to our insight section of today's event, and I'm truly delighted to introduce you to Alveena Malik. She's the CEO and co-founder of 1 Million Mentors. And Alveena is going to address the importance of quality mentoring for young people and how this can help their transition into the world of work and adult life. Let's have a look.
Good morning, my name is Alveena Malik and I'm the Chief Executive and co-founder of 1 Million Mentors. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to speak to you today at the Movement to Work's Summer Leadership Conference, and I'm particularly delighted to partner with the excellent Movement to Work, who are doing a fantastic job in providing young people from disadvantaged backgrounds with opportunities for work that they may not otherwise be able to access. 1 Million Mentors was set up by myself and my co-founder, Rushanara Ali MP, in 2016. Essentially, our mission is to recruit, train and deploy 1 million professionals to support 1 million young people over the next 10 years and enable those young people to transition into adulthood and further educational opportunities and transition into the world of work. 1 Million Mentors operates across 4 regions. That includes Greater Manchester, West Midlands, East London and Cardiff. And over the past 4 years, we've been able to establish over 2,000 mentoring relationships. We know that mentoring works. We have seen our data significant increases in young people who've been mentored through their increase in their confidence, increase in their personal effectiveness, in their exposure to work, and in their social networks. Mentoring has never been more important than it is today. With the young people that we work with, who are predominantly from disadvantaged communities and diverse communities, their well-being has never been very high. According to our baseline data, only 29% of the young people that we worked with felt okay. Obviously, during the pandemic, this has been even more significantly impacted. Their well-being has been even more significantly impacted. Right now, our data suggests that only 5% of our mentees are feeling okay right now, which probably unsurprising given the challenges that they're facing. However, we know that our mentors are doing a fantastic job in keeping our mentees hopeful about their futures and guiding them to access the local opportunities that actually do exist in the local areas. Phoebe, for instance, is a young person in Wales who is the first in her family to go to university. She recently graduated, but unfortunately found it very difficult to secure a job in the environmental sector, which is the one that she studied for. we were able to find her a mentor in that sector, and through that relationship she was able to secure a role, a fantastic job as an assistant contents manager for a leading environmental agency. Fatima in London has also found it incredibly challenging after graduating to find a role. Through her mentoring relationship and her mentor, they both identified a role that she was really interested in going for. The mentor helped Fatima apply for that role. They practiced interview skills, and she was able to secure a job in a housing association focusing with homeless young people. And then we have Jeremiah in Greater Manchester, a care leaver who very much struggled during the pandemic, and in his own words has said that his mentoring relationship during that period has been a lifeline when he felt very alone and very confused about a changing and complex job market. I'm delighted also that I'm delighted that 1 Million Mentors is also providing mentors to the Movement to Work's youth ambassadors, helping them to secure roles, or if they're in their first job, to succeed in that role and to have therefore higher retention rates. During the pandemic, we have seen an incredibly dramatic increase in people wanting to volunteer for 1 Million Mentors, and in particular corporates. Our offer is safe, it's secure, it's well structured, and it provides high quality training opportunities and ongoing support for employees and individuals. We know that 98% of the mentors that are currently working with us and volunteering have said that they have gained a huge amount in terms of personal fulfillment and giving back to their local communities. 69% of our mentors have told us that they've had significant personal development as well. So it's a two-way process. If you're interested in becoming a mentor, or your company would be interested in engaging with us, then please do get in contact with us. Our website details are www.1mn.org.uk. And I also know that my colleague Syed Howlader will be speaking later on a panel and giving you further information about our work. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much indeed, Alveena. Plenty of food for thought there. And it's great to hear how mentoring has actually successfully helped support young people as they look to secure their first job, and more generally in terms of their mental well-being, particularly over the last year. So we move on now to our impact session. And first up, I'm pleased to be able to introduce you to Matt Ilic, who is the Chief Development Officer at Catch-22. And we're really proud to have Catch-22 as a key organisation within our Movement to Work approved partner network. They're an incredibly well-established charitable organisation. They can trace their roots back over 230 years to 1788. I think, if my maths is right. And today they continue to deliver key support to so many young people across the country. So over to you, Matt, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Simon. If I can just share my screen with you all. Hopefully you can all see that. Great to be here, and of course great to be members of Movement to Work as well, and what an important time to be having this summit with a spotlight on the Northwest as well, for reasons that will hopefully become clearer during this presentation. As Simon has given a brief introduction to us, we're a charity and a social business. We've been around for over 250 years in different incarnations, and slightly depressingly, the stuff that our Victorian predecessors dealt with is still alive today, whether it is children being looked after by the state, whether it is children who are growing up in homes that are workless, or whether it is homelessness on the streets of London. And all of those issues are deep in the DNA of what the organisation has been doing since then. But we're also very committed to building resilience and aspiration. We're relatedly committed to reforming the wider system, whether that is working with government or broader stakeholders to activate the conditions in which people's lives happen. And in a context of employability and movement to work and the issue of today, we run a number of employability programs across England, last year during the pandemic to the year to August, we placed 520 people into work in a range of different sectors, a number of them doing interviews virtually, and then also even starting jobs remotely before going in and out of various lockdowns. So we're really proud of the work that we do here. We're also very proud to be here today and to be members of Movement to Work. What's going on in youth unemployment? So just to kind of set a bit of context, I could get my hands on stats going back to 1992, and it's true to say that young people are always the first and the worst hit in any kind of economic downturn. And without knowing it, whilst living through it, we always pay a huge penalty. In the last 15 months or so, under 35s have borne the brunt of all job losses. About 80% of all job losses have been amongst younger people. And youth unemployment or employment always runs twice at the general rate. So youth unemployment, as you'll see shortly, is something like 13.2%, whilst the general unemployment rate is 4.8%. And in Liverpool City region, that accounts for some 15,000 under 24-year-olds who are on unemployment benefit. And here's what it looks like in Vernon's native Bolton. A quarter of all under 25-year-olds are out of work. And all of these Northwest stats are bucking the UK averages for youth unemployment, and also significantly bucking the average unemployment rate, which, as I said, sits at 4.8%. And I think we have to just remain extremely alert to this when we get to December or Easter next year, and we're back at record employment levels, full employment levels. I'm concerned that these stats will still be alive, and therefore we need to redouble our efforts in relation to young people specifically, and create opportunities for them as we go along. The way we look at this at Catch-22 is through two lenses. One is the unemployment gap, which I mentioned already, which is the young people are always lagging behind overall employment rates. So twice or three times over the national average for unemployment. And the underemployment trap, which is that the work is lower paid, less secure, often of low quality. And actually there are efforts to try and address this too. So I picked up something called the Greater Manchester Good Employment Charter, which GMCA colleagues will be aware of. And that's championing secure work, flexible work, the real living wage, workplace engagement and voice, excellent people management. So it's trying to recruit businesses that pride themselves on providing good work. And I think we should set our ambitions really high, not just in closing the unemployment gap, but also dealing with this underemployment trap, that we can't facilitate a situation where people are getting into employment, but actually employment is not of a good quality and actually sets people back rather than creating genuine aspirational opportunities for them. Various government interventions out there. I could see in the chat several DWP colleagues are on the call, and it's great to have you here. And 7 or 8 billion is being invested in addressing the issues that we're preoccupied with, and that's clearly welcome contribution to all of this. And I suppose part of our role collectively is to try and help hone these interventions and to make sure that they deliver for young people. I won't elaborate on some of the specific initiatives that you'll be familiar with, but it feels to me like there's never been such a significant intervention, not least that things like Kickstart are £3 billion worth of commitment towards under 25s exclusively. And so for businesses wanting to take on young people now is a very significant moment in which you could create those opportunities. And from our perspective, we're running a number of programs working with corporate partners, including in the Northwest. And just to touch on a couple, our work with Barclays, which are the partners like the Prince's Trust are also part of, meant that we placed 390 people into employment last year. 320 of them sustained work for more than 26 weeks, which is our count for sustainment. So that's more than 60% of people were able to retain a job beyond the halfway mark in the year, which in the context of a global pandemic, I think is no bad going. But the secret sauce to all of that is really strong local relationships and, of course, a high commitment to interpersonal connection, as loads of people will be deploying that in the Restart program that is commenced this week, among others. And in terms of the Restart program, it's clearly too early to say whether that will have an effect. So it's focused on people who are out of work in the long term, so 12 months or more, and it's looking to address about 1 million people over the next 3 to 4 years. and kickstart 250 jobs with the ambition. And so far we've had 36,000 starts. But my worry with that is that we have 6 months on the clock. To the end of December was how long the scheme was originally meant to run. So if we're looking to close the unemployment gap, there isn't a lot of time to try and make up the ground on the original ambition. And so between us, I think we should do more to make Kickstart a success if we can. But the reality of this all is that, and I think the Institute for Employment Studies put this very eloquently, we're in a situation where it could have been worse, is our sort of prevailing mantra. And actually, we continue to face three big challenges, even as we try and address all these issues. The biggest one and the starkest one for me is that there are widening inequalities in labour markets. And so even as we progress towards people being employed, if you're from an ethnic minority, or if you are a woman, or if you have a physical or mental disability, then you are going to be hindered, and you may have been hindered for some months already. So the longer term unemployed population disproportionately impacts people who are from minoritized groups. And that is something that we really need to double down on as we focus towards building recovery. Similarly, there are projections that suggest that long-term unemployment will grow, and the underemployment, which relates to my second challenge, will grow over this period too. And so we must, again, materially focus on issues of good work and how to measure on that. And so what should building back better looks like? This is a slogan that you hear on both sides of the Atlantic, and clearly it rings hollow unless we really focus on the issues that are before us. So the first thing that's needed, I believe, is government signals and a much stronger endorsement of young people and the value and the creativity that they bring. And the pending youth review, which we should see this side of the summer ending, is an opportunity to do that. But we need yourselves as businesses and others to really come out and champion young people. I've read somewhere a young person commenting to a youth worker that young people account for 25% of the population, but 100% of the future. And I think that's a good framing to think about what our commitment here should be. There are business-led sector interventions that I think are brilliant, and one worth mentioning, which is Diageo's Raising the Bar, which centers on helping the nighttime and bar economy adapt to the future. But I think at the same time, it could come with a boost to skills, and we're hoping to work with Diageo on that, as clearly hospitality sector is one that offers mass employment for young people, but is also experiencing huge sector skills shortages. The other thing is that lots of civil society, ourselves included, are thinking about youth development in the broader sense. And we've recently, fortunately, become partners of something called the UK Year of Service. And that is a year-round service program that carries paid full-time employment for young people, but also a combination of working on some of the most pressing issues of the time. So harnessing the generation to tackle the toughest challenges that the country faces, whilst putting them in paid employment at the same time. And my summative point is this, which is that building back better is hollow unless we are the builders, we are the architects, we are somewhere in the construction process of building back. It's not going to happen by osmosis. And we mustn't sleepwalk into returning to a place where inequality is actually widened in the course of the pandemic. And we've spent a lot of time in sessions talking to some of these issues, as opposed to genuinely harnessing our collective endeavor to create opportunities for young people. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for listening today, and I will see you later on the panel.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate that. Some sobering information there, but some fantastic advice, I think, on how we can support young people. And yes, we'll see you a little later on in the panel. We're now going to move on to our next speaker, an impressive and engaging young entrepreneur who I'm always genuinely excited to hear from. It's Jack Houghton, who is director and co-founder of Half Full.
Hello and welcome. My name's Jack, and thanks for attending today's session. Now, I'm really excited to talk to you about the different ways we can attract and engage young people for the world of work. Now, a little bit about myself. I co-founded and run Half Full. Now, we're a media company on a mission to make it easier for every single young person to enter the world of work. We've built an active network of thousands of Gen Z influencers and trendsetters to help us reach over 500,000 students across the UK with social media careers content, events and opportunities. Now, this also means that we've had the pleasure of helping some of the UK's largest employers attract and engage Gen Z using social media. Now, first off, I just want to say a massive thanks for Movement to Work for hosting another awesome event, as well as thanks to every single incredible employer and charity that are doing so much important work for young people at such a difficult time. This Northwest event in particular is pretty special for me. As I live in Manchester now, and I'm originally from a small industrial town called Furness, a couple hours northwest of Manchester. Growing up there, I was never seen as academic. So many teachers completely gave up on me. If you told me I'd be here just a few years later, I'd have laughed at you. It truly saddens me that I look back and see many friends I grew up with stuck in the same jobs as when we left school, or being in even harder financial positions, being in prison, or even worse. It doesn't have to be that way. I feel lucky. I've worked incredibly hard, but I've also been incredibly privileged because my mum and dad were nurses. This gave me the stability that many friends just didn't have. It allowed me to turn things around, give me a second chance, go back and resit lots of exams. Ended up going to college and uni, and set me on a personal mission to change how the system works for young people. Ever since that moment, it's been about making sure this story doesn't continue to repeat itself, that every single young person can realise their full potential. From setting up a programme with some of my best friends tackling youth poverty and homelessness in Manchester, that led me to speaking in Beijing and Hong Kong, as well as receiving awards from the Prime Minister, to now building Half Full. It's why I'm so extra excited to talk to you all about today, about our learnings from various client campaigns all over the UK, about how to better attract young people and get them into work. Because importantly, I want this statement to stick in everyone's head. If we always do what we've always done, then we'll always get what we've always had. Because it's interesting to me, because some of the biggest challenges facing employers for early careers right now is building a brand awareness and attracting diverse students, which was reported by one of the UK's largest in-house recruiter communities this month. But when you ask yourself, why is this a challenge, especially when it comes to diverse and socially immobile students? Well, the answer is, why would a young person who's never engaged with your industry or brand suddenly think that they could apply to your roles? Many young people have never thought that people like them could work in industries such as law or finance or tech and loads others, because many people have never had that representation. No role models to show that they can be whatever they want to be. Because I know I didn't always have that growing up. I didn't face half the barriers as a white man that many young people face on a daily basis. So I bring it back to that opening statement. If we always do what we've always done, then we'll always get what we've always had. So I propose we start doing things a bit differently. We all know that young people, my generation, those even younger than me, are the first generation ever to grow up with the internet at their fingertips. This means they've grown up with social media influences our entire life, using YouTube as a new version of TV, getting our news from Instagram and now TikTok. So we're witnessing a massive shift in the way our generation sees the world, a shift in the way our generation understands the world, and importantly, communicates with the world. Young people are now spending over 4.5 hours online per day, and over 80% of young people have reported that they've used social media to become more knowledgeable about a topic. We use social media to decide on what to wear, what to eat, where to visit. So why would careers and education be any different? This is why we use social media as an attraction tool, and why we think you should do too. A social media tool that helps you build trust and relationships with young people at scale. And you can use it to fill your pipeline with work-ready students. A tool that should just go beyond paid advertising. You should see it as a new and improved form of emails, fit for the modern age. It allows you to organically engage and nurture young people with content about your brand and opportunities, whilst at the same time helping prepare them for the world of work. But what should attraction look like on social media? I could talk about this all day, but we're going to cover very quickly three things you can start doing right now. Number one is create regular content. Number two is partner with influencers. And number three is host social first events. But what do I mean by these three different things? So first off, creating regular content for your careers page, because you should see your careers page on social media as an opportunity to create regular educational and helpful content that prepares young people for the world of work. It shouldn't be left as an afterthought. This content should break down your application process, show behind the scenes at the office, and what the different roles involve, and loads more. You want young students to easily find you online, so they can then binge watch your content on social media in their own time, helping them picture what it would be like to work for you, whilst creating multiple new touch points for you to build awareness and engagement with potential candidates, even while your team is fast asleep. Number two, working with influencers. Now, we suggest you work with influence with 2,000 or 15,000 followers in that broad range, because this helps you promote your events and your content. Their followers consist of their friends and people who trust them and are like them. This is what our entire network of student influencers helps us with. It helps us promote client campaigns, promote events and content, because 73% of young people said that if they saw their friends talking about a brand, they would want to learn more about that brand too. And number 3, host social first events. This means running events that capture young people's attention. Don't always run an event that's just about you and your brand. Remember that young people may have never considered a career with you or in that particular industry. So speak to their interests first, then use that engagement to sign up students to an event about your opportunities. These events can capture attention on mental health or accessibility or entrepreneurship. It could be on how to stay motivated and loads more. We've had influencers who create social media content about how young women of colour can access the tech industry, and then had these influencers speak at our events and client events, because their followers then turn up to that event and then can apply for those roles. So in short, this social first approach works really well across all sectors with all our partners, from tech all the way to retail. You just need to give it a go. And I really hope this has been helpful, and I really encourage you to think about the new ways you can help students learn about your opportunities, and put simply, make it easier for every young person to enter the world of work. Now, thanks again for Movement to Work, and have a great rest of the event. I really wish I could be there live, but I'm actually on holiday for the first time in 2 years. So if anyone does want to ask me any questions or anything like that, do get in touch using an email or anything like that. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Jack, for sending in such a wonderful and passionate message, and one that I believe we can all take and should take something from. And I just want to take a quick moment to repeat that statement that was really, really important for me, which is, if we always do what we've always done, then we'll always get what we've always had. Really, really important. So now moving on to our Inspire session, where we've got 2 case studies from one of Movement to Work's steering group employers and major supporters, BAE Systems. First up, we'll go to Helen Wharton, Head of Graduate and Education Services UK, who's going to talk about BAE's business approach to youth employability and their Movement to Work programme, which is delivered in partnership with the Prince's Trust and the Launch Group. Helen.
Good morning, my name is Helen Wharton and I'm the Head of Graduate and Education Services here at BAE Systems. Firstly, I'd like to say a huge thank you for being invited to join this leadership forum. For me, really important that we get the opportunity to talk a little bit about the programme that we deliver here at BAE Systems, but equally as important to really be an advocate for the programme, to encourage other employers and other organisations to get involved with the Movement to Work programme, because there is absolutely real value in what we see and what we are able to deliver here at BAE Systems. In terms of the programme, it really does align to some of the key priorities we have as an organisation. So there's value on both sides. It really helps us to make sure we've got that diversity of talent in our organisation, and making sure that it supports our wider D&I strategy, but equally make sure that we are able to kind of focus on STEM and some of those really important ambitions for young people, to inspire them and motivate them through the STEM activities that we do, and that is part of the programme, in that we are able to take young people on virtual tours, encourage them to talk to people in the business, and support them with their employability skills. So the programme has been very much embedded here at BAE Systems. Our Chief Executive, Charles Woodburn, has been the sponsor since 2014, so very much is a programme where there is some legacy and some real impact that we are able to demonstrate, both internally and externally. We also know that there are some challenges for us as a country following the pandemic. We're still on our roadmap out of that. So we know there is a commitment through the education bill, vital reforms in post-16 education, a new levelling up agenda in terms of that community investment and making sure that no community is left behind. We know there are challenges in terms of trying to break down those socio-economic barriers barriers. And we do that through programs like Movement to Work, where we create opportunities for all young people to engage with the program. We've been really lucky in that, we, over the period of time we've engaged with the programme, 650 young people have been able to participate. The fantastic news for us is that, as I said, we use that as a pipeline through for our talent. And of those that have participated, we've had over 200 young people go into a positive outcome with BAE Systems. So that's circa 30 young people who progress into our apprenticeship or graduate programs each year, which is absolutely fantastic to be able to share with you. I think here at BAE Systems, as we kind of are strong advocates for the programme, it's really important that we help young people to understand the kind of skills that we need as employers. And, some of those ones that we're probably all familiar with, working effectively in teams, attendance and timekeeping, the importance of that, those interpersonal skills, but equally about the kind of quality of work that they deliver, attention to detail, can they follow instructions? So those things are important, but equally it's also important that people think about the how, because it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And we really want young people to have that adaptability, to be inspirational, to have the integrity and work collaboratively. So once they come into BAE as part of our Movement to Work programme, we also help them to understand the kind of behaviours that we are looking for as an organisation. It's also really important for all of us to help develop those employability skills, but equally to help young people to understand the importance of seeking those at an early stage as well. So where they can get involved in any kind of virtual or work experience, world of work days, STEM activities in school, or talk to people that they know. There's curriculums within school to help, but equally, friends and neighbours and family, talk to them, find out about what it means to be at work, because again, those will help young people, to make those important career decisions. Our programme is virtual. Obviously, in this virtual world, we've had to adapt, but we've not seen any less of a programme being delivered. Young people are still giving amazing feedback in that they get to work in teams. They deliver on projects to really help understand what it means to be at work. But one of the best parts, certainly for me, is that through the programme, every young person gets a chance to present back what they did learn on the Movement to Work programme. So we have a real showcase where young people present their findings, share what they have learned, and that really is so inspirational to see the benefit that we as an employer are able to give, but more importantly, the value that young people have seen in taking part in the programme. It is important that we celebrate the success. It is important that we create those fast track opportunities so people can see, if they participate in the programme, there are benefits at the end. And certainly we have some fantastic case studies and real role models who have gone on to have really successful careers here in BAE Systems. So that really is a very kind of quick overview of the programme we run. We've had to be adaptable. We've had to build a programme that works in this virtual space, but more importantly, we wanted to continue to deliver, and we have been doing that, and have seen real value helping support our talent pipeline here at BAE Systems. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the discussions that will take place this morning.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for that great piece there, Helen, and we'll see you later on the panel. Okay, so I'm now absolutely delighted and thrilled to be able to move on to our next guest speaker and welcome the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Mr. Andy Burnham, to share some of his thoughts with us today. So a very warm welcome, Andy, and over to you. Just bear with us a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We're just trying to get Andy's video up and running. Okay, so I think we're just struggling with that content at the moment. What we'll do, whilst we're just waiting for that to happen, is we'll just jump back to BAE Systems again, and we'll move over to hear from Ethan Reeve, who is a BAE Systems apprentice, and he's also a Movement to Work Youth Ambassador. Ethan was unable, unfortunately, to share a message direct to camera with us, so please listen closely to his inspirational story. And together with a few slides, we hope this will highlight his journey for you.
Hi everyone, I hope you're having a good day. My name is Ethan Reeve and I'm 21 years old and from Blackpool, and I was 18 when I started my fitting apprenticeship with BAE Systems. When I was 16, I left high school. I did okay with my GCSEs, not the best and not the worst. I spent 2 years at college studying a level 3 extended diploma in engineering. When I came out of college, I kind of struggled to find any apprenticeships or meaningful work that I wanted to do that interested me and that made me want to go to work. Eventually, this started to get me down. I took a job delivering pizzas just to fund myself in the short term, and I just kept looking around for opportunities, but I didn't find much coming up. So I'm a young carer for my mum and my sister. They're both disabled and got various health issues, which has meant that I've had to spend quite a lot of time at home looking after them with my other family members. This meant that I was in touch with the Young Carers Centre for Blackpool, who advised me of an upcoming Movement to Work event with the Prince's Trust and BAE Systems. This was a 4-week programme which had a taster day, which allowed them to see yourself and also for myself to get familiar with everybody and to see if I was a fit for the programme. Once the day had ended, I found out that I was successful, and I found out quite late, so it was only the next week that the course started. So off I went to Preston North End Football Club, where that's where they hosted us in a really nice events room. We did all sorts in the first week. It was based around transferable skills and some things like team building, developing your knowledge about different businesses, how to act in a workplace, and various other transferable skills, which I definitely note down to have a look at yourselves in the future. These transferable skills that the programme taught me, they allowed me to apply these to any job. So if I wasn't successful with BAE Systems, I was able to take this off and use them in any job that I might come across. An example of that is we talked about timekeeping and all kinds of things like that. If it's engineering or it's medicine or it's beauty or it's any different industry, that is a transferable skill that I could take somewhere else. So the Prince's Trust, the Movement to Work, and BAE Systems have really put together a strong programme that doesn't just think about themselves, it thinks about the individual that's undertaking the programme and what would benefit them most. Second 2 weeks, I completed work experience. At first, I was a bit disheartened because we didn't get to choose the placements, and I felt like where I was going was not going to suit me and what I wanted to do. But I quickly realised that it's not about where you are and what the job role is. The BAE Systems, the Movement to Work, and the Prince's Trust have really created a well-structured and full programme throughout the 2 weeks, and it gave me lots to go off. For when I was applying for jobs, I then had experience in the workplace, and I had all sorts to go to take away from the programme. In the 4th week, we did. It was a lot based around your CV. Some people, I had a CV, so I was fortunate enough to have help, but there were some people there who didn't have support outside of the programme, and this gave them an opportunity which was vital to either create a CV or build on their existing CV, which I thought was very helpful even to myself who already has one. Throughout the course, I really enjoyed it. I had mentors to help me throughout anything that was even down to providing help trying to get to and from the workplace. They were willing to help with that. So it just shows how far they go to help you within the programme. Just as a sort of an ending note, just some advice for the young people that I would give is that perseverance is key. Don't think about money. Focus on building your skills and the money will come later. Look for opportunities, even if it doesn't pay you, such as volunteering, work experience, programs like this one that I've undertaken. And you can't expect things to come to you. You need to go out and get it and make your own luck and your own opportunities. Thank you for listening. Hi, everyone.
Great stuff. Thank you, Ethan. I think you'll agree how powerful it is to actually hear a young person's story and how grateful they are for the chance to develop their employability skills and demonstrate just how good they can actually be. So congrats again to Ethan for getting so far. And of course, a big thank you to all the mentors that got him there. And we wish him all the luck in the world. Right, I just want to quickly see if our special guest, Andy Burnham, is queued up and ready. So please just bear with me. I'm just going to call across. He is. I can see him. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Andy. Really, really appreciate it. And I'll hand straight over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Simon. Good morning, everybody. I'm really pleased to be with you all this morning, supporting wholeheartedly, actually, Movement to Work. It's the right campaign at the right time, and obviously just hearing all the difference that it's making for young people here in the Northwest. It's great to hear. I'll just start with a bit of reflection as to where we're up to. Manchester today is very different than the Manchester I kind of came into looking for a job in the early 1990s. Obviously there are companies in our city centre, buildings that just simply didn't exist before. It's a very different place, a very exciting place. But if we're honest, I think it's been a case of probably people moving to work in Manchester rather than necessarily opening up all of the exciting opportunities of our city region to our own amazing young people. And I think the truth of the matter is, even before the pandemic, it was hard. It is hard for young people to make their way in the world these days for a whole range of reasons. Life is less secure than it once was. But I think it's probably got even harder over the last 18 months, with people's confidence taking a knock, opportunities that people had lined up maybe disappearing, lives being thrown a little bit off course, and some of the issues that have arisen from all of those things. So we've got to, all of us, really work hard to get things back on track with a vengeance as quickly as we can. And obviously that's what Movement to Work is all about. And it's why we fully support it. The way I look at it, we've got to kind of throw the doors open of our exciting city and city region to the next generation. And we've got to help them connect with opportunity in any way that we can. Anticipating that young people would need a lot of support coming out of the pandemic, I commissioned Diane Medall to lead a piece of work for us on a young person's guarantee. So what were the basic building blocks of help that we were going to need to put in place post-pandemic to help people get on? So obviously that goes from the very basics, like food, and obviously we've seen the brilliant efforts of Marcus Rashford over the last year, 18 months, but also it is about connecting young people first and foremost to each other and to opportunity. So a big focus on transport. It remains the case that transport can be very expensive for young people in the Northwest, but also digital connectivity. what the pandemic exposed was just how many young people in the Northwest and in Greater Manchester don't have that ongoing digital connectivity that allows them to connect to opportunities. So they may have a device, but they can't necessarily always afford the data to give them that access to the online world. And I think we kind of very much saw that in the first lockdown. Or they may live in a family situation where they're sharing that digital kit. So connectivity is something that we have put a big focus on. Later this week, I'll be confirming that we will be opening applications for what we call Our Pass, which is our free bus pass for all 16 to 18-year-olds in Greater Manchester. We've extended our pilot so that this year's year 11s going into year 12 will be able to access the Our Pass and all of the free opportunities that go with it. So free entry to sport and to arts and all kinds of training and other opportunities related to that. So we think that's a very big enabler and we're very proud of it. We have a piece of work underway to see if we can help all under 25s online. And to all the companies on the call, a big shout out. Please, if you can, get involved with our Digital Inclusion Action Network. We're encouraging companies to donate kits and connectivity to help all young people get online. We're making good strides with that, but we do need your help. So please do get in touch with the digital team at the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. But obviously all of these are enabling building blocks to then connecting young people to the opportunities that are out there. One of the realizations I had when I came in as mayor was how difficult it is for young people to see a line of sight to opportunity from where they may be. It's a confusing world. It's become more so over the years. If young people are on the university route, things are laid out very clearly for them, but less so if they want work-related opportunity. So with the team at the Combined Authority, led by Gemma Marsh, who's on the call this morning, we have created what we call a UCAS style system for work-related opportunity and for apprenticeships and other opportunities. It's called GMAX, the Greater Manchester Apprenticeships and Careers Service. It's intended to be one portal where young people can find all of the opportunity that they need. It can be real opportunities, as I say, apprenticeships or internships, but actually just potential opportunities to shadow. So we have a scheme called Meet Your Future, which is all about businesses offering taster days, work shadowing days, or bringing in small groups of young people to get familiar with the workplace. You know, it is the case, if we're honest with ourselves, that many young people can't imagine themselves working in the kind of the gleaming buildings of city centre Manchester. They can't see how they can get from where they are to where they might like to be. And I think it's all of our job, all of us on this call who are in positions where we can do something about this, to throw the doors open of our organisations and to give young people those work-related opportunities, even if it's just a day to start with, so that young people can shadow you in your role and get a feel for it. This becomes so important, in my view, coming out of this pandemic. We all owe it to the next generation to put ourselves out, to open up our world and to give them those opportunities, as well as, of course, as real permanent opportunities, jobs, apprenticeships and others, but also those opportunities to just get a taste of the world of work. So Gemma has just put a link I can see up on in the chat for GMAX. Please take a look at it and see how your organisation can be involved in it and contribute opportunities to the system at every level. And of course, it's not just those teenagers; it is young people into their 20s and beyond, because we're going to need to work right up the age range to help people recover from the last few months. There is, of course, the Kickstart programme, and we're working with our DWP colleagues in the city region. Of course, we want to see that expand and open out and provide even more. I'll just finish with a health-related point, which is, you know, as well as all the things I've described about obviously food security and transport connectivity, digital connectivity, connecting them then to real opportunities in the Greater Manchester world. I mean, all of this is critical if we're to help them on on their path. I think we've also just got to recognise that it is much harder, I think, to grow up these days than it was when we were growing up, many of us in the 70s, 80s, 90s. The world has changed. The world is far less secure than it was. The pressure is greater, not just from social media, but that certainly adds pressure. It's much more difficult, I think, for young people to see their way through, and therefore harder sometimes for young people to remain resilient. And certainly the case from my point of view, as we come through this phase, we all need to place greater emphasis on young people's well-being, on their mental health. We have launched services to support our young people with digital mental health services. But I think we all need to think about not just the young person who's coming for a job opportunity, but supporting the whole person, if I can put it that way. Really working hard to make them feel welcome, build their confidence, because no generation has had this level of interruption in their lives, and we owe it to them to really make sure that we help them recover in any way we possibly can. So there's loads going on in Greater Manchester. We're very lucky that Diane Modal and her team led that detailed work with young people. We kind of feel we know what young people need, and we kind of now need you as really committed businesses, organisations with a good conscience about supporting our next generation to step forward and fill GMAX for us. Fill GMAX with as many opportunities as you can. That's what we're hoping will happen coming out of this. So thanks very much indeed for having me along this morning. It's an opportunity for me to thank everybody involved with Movement to Work. It's a fantastic drive, as I say, right at the most important possible time. So we're fully behind it in Greater Manchester. We look forward to working in partnership with you, and I will hand back to Simon.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andy. Really, really great stuff. And on behalf of Movement to Work and all the guests on the webinar today, I'm really grateful for you making time to speak to us so passionately and offering such great insight and words of support and encouragement. Thank you again. So now we're going to take a very short break. So please do feel free to grab yourselves a brew, stretch your legs. But I would encourage you to come back, please. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So if you could be back here for 11:32, again, I think if my maths is correct, that would be great. We're going to go straight into our panel discussion and hear a lot more insightful thoughts and comments from our guests today. So we'll see you in 5 minutes. Hello and welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the short break. So now it's time for our panel discussion, and I am delighted to hand over to my fabulous colleague Elaine McCulloch, who is Movement to Work's Head of Regional Development for the North East and your chair for today. So over to you, Elaine.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's a pleasure to be hosting the panel discussion today. I'd like to take a moment just to introduce the panel before we get started with the questions. So we have Zahid Howladar, who is Head of Delivery at 1 Million Mentors. We have Helen Wharton, Head of Graduates and Education Service at BAE Systems. We have Matt Ilic, who is the Development Officer at Catch22. Gemma Marsh, Director of Education Skills at the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and our amazing Anastasia Jamfrey, who is Movement to Work Ambassador. So first of all, I'm going to go then to Helen, who is Head of Graduates, as I said. So Helen, how does a partnership with Movement to Work help BAE Systems as a business?
Okay, thank you, Elaine, and thank you for, as I said, being part of today. There's been some really engaging speakers, and it's been lovely to be part of the event. I think, you know, we have been delivering the Movement to Work programme in partnership with the Launch Group and the Prince's Trust for, you know, since 2014. So it's an absolute integral part of our recruitment and attraction activities. And, you know, that partnership's well established. It does help us to recruit to our early careers programmes, and particularly apprenticeships, which is where we see some real value. I think to support our skills requirements, we offer what we call a fast track to interview for candidates, and, you know, people who complete the Movement to Work programme and we feel are a suitable candidate to BAE Systems. It helps us to direct them, select them into particular roles and opportunities. So that partnership and that work that we do through the programme really does help us to create and recruit diverse people into the roles that we have. It gives us a chance to showcase our opportunities as well, to be honest, Elaine, because, you know, sometimes people don't always understand what we do at BAE Systems. So certainly the programme helps us introduce them to wider roles and opportunities. So that's a real positive for us. I think as well,
that's
the strong
amazing, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. We can't see your lovely face. I think there might be a blur on your camera. Not sure there. The joy of live technology. So thank you very much for that, Helen. That's wonderful to hear. So I'm going to move over to Anastasia then. So Anastasia, we featured BAE Systems as part of the business case study today, and your face is well known as part of this partnership. But for those of you who don't know you, could you tell us briefly about your journey into the world of work?
Yes, sure, can do. Thank you. So yes, I'm Anastasia. I'd love to say I'm still a young person, but I am 31, so I'm not really sure if I'm still a young person, but I'll take it. I left school at the age of 16. I'd just given birth to my son. I was a single mum. I'd had quite a tumultuous life, you know, social services, alcoholic parents, neglect, mental health problems. And I left school with pretty much no GCSEs, nothing, you know, core like maths or science, etc. Spent the majority of my time at home looking after my son, tried to do some job centre courses, things like that. Couldn't get any jobs. It was the, you know, no experience, no qualification cycle that I was stuck in. And eventually the job centre came up and said that there was a Movement to Work programme happening. Now, the reason I actually went for it is because it was in partnership with the Prince's Trust, and I'd actually done a Prince's Trust course beforehand. So I knew about them, so that's why I jumped for it. In terms of the 4-week programme, it was pretty much similar as to what Ethan had mentioned earlier on, so did sort of the same sort of thing. But I went into quality, and I was offered a subcontractor role off the back of that. From then, I then applied for a business apprenticeship, and the company helped to put me through my maths qualification, etc. So I could then get onto the apprenticeship. Did the apprenticeship, finished that in 2017, came out of my time. And since then, I've done my APM PMQ qualification. So I'm a qualified project manager now, quite a few other qualifications. I've managed to buy a house, managed to take my son on his first holiday abroad, which was fantastic. Managed to pass my test and buy a car as well. So it's been a massive change for me. It's been brilliant. Yeah.
Anastasia, you truly are an inspiration to all of us, but also an amazing example of how just that right introduction and how important that work experience can be to kickstart a career. So thank you for sharing that. So Matt, so heading over to you now. So in a world where there are so many employability programs on offer for young people, but many of them that don't necessarily lead to jobs, how could the charity in the third sector better prepare young people for the world of work?
Thanks, Leigh. It's a great question. I think you're right to point to something, which is that there's a bamboozling amount of service provision here, and a lot of the energy is going on the supply side, so the employee or prospective employee side. I think where the space that we inhabit, and I think one of the roles that we kind of play on Movement to Work, along with others like Prince's Trust, is trying to be that sort of helpful, critical friend, sort of intermediary translator between the world of business and the world of welfare to work and young people. And it's been really interesting, sort of the last period, particularly working on stuff like the Kickstart program, because what I see is that there is a lot of business that at the highest level is committed to issues of diversity, inclusion, youth employment, and Movement to Work is the best kind of exponent of that. I think then you've got kind of real practical challenges around the rubber hitting the road, whether it's young people and the various barriers that they're facing, and that could be anything from prior functional skills requirements to do an apprenticeship through to actually they have caring responsibilities and therefore have to kind of work compressed hours, through to mobility issues and so on. So it goes without saying that in order to tackle the issues that we're already passionate about, we need to brigade our collective understanding and wisdom. And I think if there was one partner that you can't go without here, I think it is the businesses, because they are the people who create the opportunities, who are the value creators. And we really need them to step into a space where they kind of do youth employment by default. I'd rather not do a year on year of conferences talking about this challenge. I'd like it to become completely normalized, and for us to close the gap that I talked about in my presentation. So in terms of the role that we play, I think it's kind of as facilitators, as people that lessen some of the concerns or lack of understanding, or even like the risk aversion that businesses might have. But as far as I can see, they're absolutely integral. And we got a really good piece of advice from one of our corporate partners last week, which is to build programs and to go with the grain of their business. And I think as organizations in civil society, there is more that we can collectively do to understand the world of business and where businesses are coming from and what kind of constraints and issues that they face. And so that's very much live, because I think we need to find a pragmatic way forward to try and address the challenge that sits before us.
Thank you, Matt. We hear a lot of feedback similar to what you've said there. And I think this is why collaboration is the key, and that's what Movement to Work can offer, absolutely. So Gemma Marsh, question for you then. So we've heard earlier from Andy about many of the great initiatives in Greater Manchester. But we know that young people's confidence has been severely affected due to the pandemic. And we're seeing this is translated into a lack of applications for opportunities despite referrals going in. What do the results of Greater Manchester's latest Life Readiness Survey tell us about the mindset of young people in the region? And can we best build back this confidence and ignite the spark that will see young people re-engaged?
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for inviting me today. I'm not quite sure how I follow the Mayor of Greater Manchester, but I think you can see from his direction just the passion and really putting kind of young people at the heart. And the Life Readiness Survey is one of those things that is just so critical. And you've heard it here today, listening to young people as well. So listening to business, absolutely, and how we kind of work together on that. But actually asking those young people the questions. So This year we got 7,000 year 10 pupils kind of completing the survey, and Andy was really clear about kind of hope and optimism really as kind of a benchmark. And obviously we have seen a decline this year on last year in terms of the hope and optimism. And I think what's really staggering as well is the biggest drop was in kind of young girls as opposed to boys. So there is other things kind of going on. And I think it's the role of the combined authority and its partners. And Andy mentioned a few, and obviously we've heard Matt talk of some, around, well, what can we do? How do we build back that kind of hope and optimism in young people and connect them to the opportunities? So, you know, we have the Greater Manchester Apprenticeship and Careers, we have a young person's guarantee, but we don't do that by ourselves. You know, we speak to business, we speak to young people. Our local authorities have just played a phenomenal role in this. And actually what we're trying to do is, no matter where you are and what your path and what your life chances have been assumed to be, in Greater Manchester, you should have equal access to those opportunities. And we do that by working with the schools and working with those young people and bringing and connecting businesses into that. So we use Careers and Enterprise, we use Prince's Trust, we use all of our partners to really kind of blow young people's minds about what Greater Manchester has to offer. And I think that's the kind of combined beauty of the authority, to be honest. But there has been one of the things we did find in the survey, which was really, really staggering, and I think we have to capture this, and organisations like Movement to Work can do this, and Prince's Trust, was the kind of the social impact and what young people had done during the pandemic to help their community. You know, so yes, fair enough, their hope and optimism might have dipped a tad, but whose didn't? But they really wanted to give back. And I think it's about, how do you harness that, and how do you give them the bag of tricks that they need, not just academic, but also that kind of the health advice, their connectivity. You've talked about kind of RPAS. How do you give them everything that employers are looking for, but tell them that that's what employers are looking for in a way that kind of connects all of those dots? So that's what we've been trying to do in Greater Manchester, is to use the voice of young people and build all of our partners around that, and make some changes based on that. And that, you know, those things were there before the pandemic and they've just got worse. So I think you have to, you know, you have to use the goodwill, and businesses have been phenomenal. Everybody's been phenomenal, but you also have to connect it. And a lot of young people basically said, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to look. So bring it in one place and tell them that if you do this, you could do that. This is what these employers are saying. This is what the jobs are. Did you know that if you did that, these are your choices? So it's just, you know, it's a start, and there's lots of things that we can be doing. But yeah, it's been really interesting, and I think having the backing of the mayor has just really kind of elevated it.
Thank you, Gemma. That's been really insightful. Thank you. So my second to last question then, very quickly. So Zahid, so what can employers do to ensure young people are supported in the right way during those early experiences of working life?
Thanks, Elaine. Very good question. It obviously starts with the employer and how they encourage and support their own workforce to do more, and those in senior positions leading by example, and also thinking about having a longer term impact on that young person in the kind of support that they provide. One of the many opportunities out there to get involved, but quite underutilized by employers, but really effective, is one-to-one mentoring, having that direct relationship and engagement with the young person. So if we think about what the young person's first experiences of working life, it's the job search, which we've all been through, and we're hearing a lot of feedback right now about how difficult and how challenging it is. And quality mentoring from a trained and trusted adult can give young people aspirations and awareness of opportunities that they didn't know of before. Through Movement to Work and Business in the Community and other initiatives, I've heard young people speak firsthand about, thanks to the exposure that a certain employer has given them, they're now aware of what's possible, which for them before was just something in the distance that was completely unattainable. But now their aspirations and hopes have been raised, which is really powerful in itself. And it's the support that these mentors are giving to access these opportunities, to be prepared for the opportunities, and guide them through the transitions. So it's not just about the first few weeks of work, it's how mentoring can support a young person if they're leaving college, if they've just graduated, while they go through that journey of looking for a job, but then transitioning into a job. It's a completely different experience that they have to then acclimatize to. And now it's more different than ever that they have to try and adapt to. So I guess what I would wrap up with is mentoring can help provide a vital link between businesses and a future talent pool of diverse communities, supporting those transitions. The end achievement is so much bigger. You will improve a young person's social capital, you'll improve their social mobility, and ultimately, which I think is a grand goal of all of our initiatives, is increasing social cohesion in the community across the UK.
That's amazing, Zahid. That's really important. I think after everyone we've heard from today about the importance of securing young people, making them aware of the opportunities, employers doing their bit by creating their jobs, the last bit is making sure they stay and succeed, and that's really important. So thank you. So my last question then to the panel, going to have to be really tight on the time, guys, here, so no more than a minute each. So I'm looking for one piece of advice or a key thought that you would like to leave the audience with to encourage them to engage in youth employability programs in these tough economic times. So Helen, could I start with you?
Good afternoon again. So I think for me, we have an absolute responsibility as employers to really create opportunity. And I think previously I spent over 30 years working in careers guidance and education. And for me, we've got to create opportunities that young people can engage, so whether that's through work experience programs or things like movement to work. We've got to be clear. And I was listening to what Jack had to say about being clear on what we want, make sure that collateral and the information on our websites is absolutely explicit and up to date, so that we can provide information. So I think I'd like to encourage every one of us to think about that. How can we showcase, how can we really promote what we do so that young people can see we're employers that want to engage and work with them?
Thank you, Helen. So Anastasia, as someone who's been through the programme, what could you leave with the audience today?
I guess my advice would be, obviously there's a lot of employers here today, and when you employ people or look at bringing people into your business, you'll always look at what qualifications and experience does someone have, and then further down the line you will look at, do they have the skills around resilience, stakeholder management, leadership potential, etc. What about flipping that on its head and saying, right, okay, we've got this person in who has all of this criteria but doesn't have the qualifications or experience. There's nothing to say that you can't build on it that way. And actually, the other thing I would say as well is there's so many young people who, because they don't have qualifications and experience, they think they've got nothing to offer at all. And actually, some of the things that they've been through in their life, growing up in poverty or bullying, going through the care system, etc., all that sort of stuff shapes them to have them sort of skills like resilience, etc. So I think it's really important you try and pull that out of them as well, and let them know that they do actually have something there to contribute, even if it isn't the qualification experience that you're looking for to start with.
Brilliantly put, how different the world would be if we all looked at life that way. Thank you, Anastasia. Matt, same question.
I think my only bit of advice, in addition to everything that has and will be said, is to take charge, by which I mean a lot of businesses, and we would include ourselves in that, are waiting on seeing some clarity as to what the midterm horizon looks like, what kind of skills will be required, etc. And actually, you have lots of information at your disposal to give you a decent measure of things that you can do in the here and now, even while there is a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity. So I think waiting for too long has catastrophic consequences for lots of people and their futures. And actually taking some educated bets and making decisions in ambiguity, I think, is part of our responsibility as well. So I would say take charge.
Thank you, Matt. Gemma, and then finally to Zahid. You've got about 1 minute each. Same question.
Mine is very simple. You know, from a combined authority point of view, our role is to make it simple for businesses and young people. So our commitment is that, you know, so come, if you want to come and work with us, we will hide the wiring. We will, if it's whether you want to be kind of support work shadowing or support apprenticeships, I think our role is to kind of disentangle that for you at a combined authority level to support our kind of local businesses and local people. So that is our commitment, and the same on the young persons guarantee and GMAX as well. So we need to make it simple for everybody.
Thank you, Gemma. And Zahid, closing the point for the panel today. Thank you.
Brilliant. You know, Matt spoke about taking charge. Andy Burnham spoke about helping the whole person. So what I can't take credit for here is actually we often talk about hard to reach young people, and actually we should be flipping that and saying that they're easy to ignore. And that puts the responsibility squarely on us to find the solutions, to reach out and engage them in the right way. Think about how we can do that longer term, about helping that whole young person. And if you do get involved in mentoring, that's a lasting impact. And the mentees of today, we're already seeing are becoming mentors. So you can have that cascade impact and have a lasting impact as well.
Thank you. Thank you for closing. And thank you all for taking part in the panel. Back to Simon.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elaine. And thanks to all the panelists for your time. Really, really great discussion and really fantastic to have you all with us today. And please, everybody, do continue to use the chat function if you still have questions or would like any more information. Just a very quick reminder, so I beg your pardon, a quick mention, that we should have also had a message from Sebastian Munden, who's Unilever's General Manager for the UK and Ireland. Unfortunately, we've not got time to show that during today's event, but it is available on our YouTube channel. And there is a link for that that's been dropped into the chat. So as we approach the end of our event, it gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome Sam Olsen, who is Movement to Work's amazing CEO, to share with us her final and closing thoughts for today. Sam, over to you.
Thanks very much, Simon. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for our Summer Movement to Work Leadership Forum. I really hope you've enjoyed the sessions today. We asked you at the end of the last couple of sessions what you value the most from these forums, and you said you were looking for insight, practice, a place to share. And I'm sure you'll agree that's been the focus of this morning. But I challenge you to think about the fact that we also know that impact and action is actually what makes change happen. So it'd be great if you could put just a couple of words in the chat to let us know what action you're taking away from today, what you're going to be thinking about, what you'll be doing differently, which feels like it's been a bit of a theme. So a huge thank you to all the fabulous speakers and contributors from across our network today. Gemma, Helen, Matt, Alveena, Zahid, and of course our amazing youth ambassadors. I'm still going to call you a youth ambassador for now, Anastasia, Ethan and Jack. And of course, Mayor Andy Burnham, and the absolutely delightful, of course, Vernon Kay, with their genuine words for support that helped kick us off. Great to hear from them all. Now, before we close, those of you that have been to these events before, I like to leave you with a couple of things to think about. First of all, I'm delighted that today's Leadership Forum has focused on the Northwest. It's where I grew up, where most of my family still live, but I'm afraid I'm also one of the statistics we read about. I had to move away from the area, away from my family and friends to secure a job. Slowly pushed down the M40 is how I put it. And I'm an optimistic person, but I can't ignore the evidence here. Even if you have the same or similar qualification to your peers from other regions, you are far more likely to not be in education or employment or training if you grew up particularly in deprived areas of the Northwest. Even pre-pandemic, even with superb cities like Manchester and Liverpool bursting with culture, and even though many businesses find their home in this part of the UK, we know that young people growing up in the Northwest have more hurdles to jump. So I'm challenging the business community to continue to invest in the Northwest, but not just in their own infrastructure, but also in the skills and future talent, because there's no doubt in my mind that great talent is here, just waiting to be given the chance to shine. Businesses like BAE have demonstrated the value of developing talent for future roles in areas such as barrow and furnace, which we heard was where Jack started his life, using programs such as Movement to Work and government-funded programs like traineeships and apprenticeships. We know it can feel like a complicated landscape to navigate, but it will support your future talent pipeline. And we're here to help to support you build programs tailored to your specific business needs. Secondly, I think it's time we started to really review and challenge ourselves for our talent and recruitment models. When an experienced member of staff leaves an organisation, let's use it as an opportunity to bring someone in at the start of their career. Let's develop talent from within, as opposed to our default position always being to try and replace the experience we've lost. Recruit a young person with less experience and less qualifications and invest in training that person to reach the same heights. Building on Jack's comment, if we continue to recruit the same way, we will continue to only be looking for the same recruitment pool. Think differently and inspire young people about your roles. There are a record number of vacancies for experienced roles at the moment and a shortage of skilled candidates. We have to think differently about talent and look to recruit for potential, not the perfect CV. So finally, in a virtual way, as I scan this forum, some of you are here because your role supports delivering on early talent, and some because you're responsible for CSR in your organisations. The corporate expectation of providing decent work as set out by the Sustainable Development Goals has never been higher up on the agenda. But if you're looking to make a real impact in this area as a business, you need to develop programs that meet young people where they're currently at. And I mean where they're currently at today. You can create fantastic opportunities like the ones we've heard about today, great employers trying to do their bit to bring talent into their organisations. But as we heard from Matt at Catch 22, young people from socially disadvantaged communities have been disproportionately hit by the pandemic. And Labour studies are highlighting, for example, the Resolution Foundation yesterday highlighted how many sectors and regions have a very long way to recover. We have a cohort of young people who've had their education and early lives hugely disrupted by the pandemic. They've been the last to be vaccinated and are quite fearful, particularly of roles in sectors that they would historically have gained work experience, such as hospitality. So support us to inspire young people furthest from the labour market to engage with the opportunities, and think about the language you use in your adverts and your communications, through to the interview process, through to the first few days in a job, and put yourself in their shoes. So let's not assume that young people have access to laptops, data, and a quiet place to be interviewed or even to work at home. And please stop asking 20-year-olds for a year's work experience. Look at their potential. Don't say a role has a competitive salary. Actually give a salary band. If you're a carer, you need to know that the role pays enough so that you can continue to support your family. You need to know if the role is going to pay enough for your housing and your food. Meet young people where they are, and with the right support, evidence shows that they will become your next diverse talent base in your organisation, and they'll have much higher levels of satisfaction in their roles, greater loyalty to your organisation, and lower sickness levels, interestingly, research shows. You have, as leaders, the responsibility to support young people to become the best they can be. Think about what more you can do to welcome them into your organisations. I know this can all sound quite complex and hard work, but we are here to help you. We need to ensure, as we emerge from the pandemic, that we have diversity and inclusion as part of our journey to ensure we're not going backwards. Please get in touch if you've got a question or a problem that needs solving. Please tell your colleagues about us and ask them to drop us a line. At Movement to Work, we're quite simply here to find ways to help you so that you can help more young people work. Let us know what barriers you're facing and let us help you to overcome them. Thanks for your time, and let's hope that the next leadership forum we actually manage to do face to face. Back to Simon.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Sam. And thanks again to everyone who's joined us here today. If you've got any further questions or any content on topics raised, please do get in touch with a member of the team. And just as a brief reminder before we all go, there is a link that's just been dropped into the chat that will allow you to complete that short survey I mentioned earlier. Please do take a minute just to let us know how we did today. And if you're not already following us on social media, please do find us and follow us, engage with us online. Our social media channel is a really, really great way to get the latest news from across our whole network of employers, youth outreach and training providers, and indeed our young people. So please do keep in touch, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, and goodbye.